Hey everybody, we should be live. Welcome to another Entre event. I'm Michael, if we haven't met yet, and I'm here with my partner Jimmy, who's our head of events.
Hello.
Thank you guys all for coming on. We're gonna get started here in probably another like 5 minutes or so. We're just gonna let some people join. As you come in, please introduce yourselves to the channel, drop your email or LinkedIn so that you guys can connect afterwards and then during the event. Definitely share your story in the chat there. Ask questions. We have an amazing speaker tonight, Erik from Hawke Media. He's built his company to over $75 million now and 150 employees and works with a lot of amazing brands. So we're really excited to have him on. And we're just going to get into it and go through his whole story and how he built his company and advice and everything. You know, we're continuing to do these events because we really want to help all you entrepreneurs out there in our community. And you know, thank you all for coming on. And we'll get started here in another couple of minutes. Real quick, I'm just going to go into an intro here, and then I'm going to let Jimmy talk about some of our other upcoming events, and we can kick things off. Jimmy, I'm going to minimize you real quick, and then I'm just going to share the screen with our website here. Give me 1 sec. Okay. Alrighty. You guys should see my screen here now. So I'm just going to go through our site here. If you guys are interested, we're getting ready to release our app, which is basically going to allow you to connect with entrepreneurs from your phone, investors, freelancers, all of that. If you just go to our website, joinentre.com, you can sign up right here for it. Like I said, you'll be able to search for investors, developers, designers, attorneys, all that sort of thing. Everyone you need to build your company. Super, super easy. You're going to create content, message people. It's really going to be a game changer for our community, but just entrepreneurs everywhere. We also just rolled out a section here for all of the content that we've made. So this is where we're going to be doing the live streams every Thursday on COVID and everything that's going on right now with industry experts. You can catch all the other events that we've been doing and some of the footage from our past events here. We're also rolling out a mentoring program for people who want more like one-on-one help and assistance with building their company or growing their company. And we have an amazing team. It's going to be myself, Jimmy, our investor and partner, Scott. We have our accounting partner, Will, and lawyer partner, Michael, as well, who's a part of that. So if you guys need help with any of that, let us know. Come check out the mentoring section. And then we also are rolling out Entre Pro as well, which basically gets you free attendance to all of our events and exclusive access to the app. So just wanted to go through that real quick as we welcome everybody in. Again, please introduce yourselves as we kick things off here. I'm going to bring Jimmy back up to talk about some of our upcoming events as well for you guys.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jim Dulabakis from Entre. Thank you for joining us tonight. We have a bunch of great events literally over the next week. Tomorrow, we're doing our part 2 of COVID-19 opportunities, finance, and relief programs. So if you're still wondering what small business loans you can apply for, what's still out there, and how to file for them, will be on tomorrow at 4 to discuss the updates to last week's live stream about that. Following that will be Luis Sanchez from LVS Advisory. He's going to talk about how to rebalance your finances, what kind of cash cushion you need, what you can do with your 401ks or any investments that you currently have. So that's going to be a great event tomorrow. We have an event Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday with several founders. So tune in there. Thursday's event will be live streamed on our site. Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday will be live streaming from Crowdcast. So we'll send you information on that. All right.
Okay. Thanks, Jimmy. We are going to be adding, we're looking to get Erik on here. Looks like he might be having a little bit of technical difficulties joining.
Yeah.
But in the meantime, happy to answer any questions that you guys might have about Entra before we kick things off in the next couple of minutes. We're still going to let people join because we're only at 6:08 right now. Hey, Jojo, what's going on? We have one of our ambassadors from Chicago on. That's great. Leah from Seattle's on. Nicola from Plate X, fantastic. Thank you guys all for coming in. Let's bring on
Erik's on.
No. I'm actually I do see Erik. Let's try to bring him on now. I think we might be able to might be working now. Let's see if he joins us. Oh, there he is. Okay, great. He's in the chat. So, yeah, as we're going through this, guys, Erik. What's going on, Erik? How are you?
Good to be here.
Fantastic. Yeah, great to have you. We're super excited about this and ready to hear your story and how you built your company and advice to all the other entrepreneurs that we got here.
Sure.
I'm going to kick things off with, Jimmy's going to take over from now on. So I'll be hanging around, guys, in the chat. If you have questions for me or whatever, I'll be engaging and, dropping some knowledge in the chat for you guys. But you're in good hands with Jimmy and Erik here. So I'm looking forward to kicking that off with them. If you guys have questions throughout this, drop them in the chat, or there's actually an ask a question down here at the bottom. If you guys want to click that, you can ask Erik a question, and we'll do a Q&A at the end. We also have some polls and stuff going too on topics that you guys want to get into. So thank you guys so much for joining, and I'll leave it to Jimmy to kick things off.
Erik, how are you? Good evening.
Good evening. Good. Thanks for
joining us. How you doing?
Doing well, honestly. It was a crazy few weeks, but seeing the light at the end of the tunnel with a lot of this craziness. So I don't think it's over, but at least seeing that it could get better, which is nice.
Awesome. I'm going to love to go into talking about the aftermath, the effects of COVID-19 in your industry specifically. But first, I wanted to let you introduce yourself. You're CEO of Hawke Media. Mm-hmm. You're a founder. Tell us about who you are. Tell us about the company a little bit, and who you are.
Sure. Companies, Hawke Media. Background is in e-commerce. I've had 3 e-commerce companies over the past 12 years. Sold 2 of them. About 7 years ago, started advising and consulting for brands about how to grow revenue using marketing, and that worked with some big brands like Red Bull and Verizon, down to a lot of startups. Hated the marketing ecosystem. Every time I tried to find an agency to work with the company, it was a mess. Every time I tried to hire people for these companies, it was a mess. So just wanted to fix that opportunity and find a way to make it accessible to get great marketing for companies. And so started with a small little SWAT team of people, each with their own expertise, like a Facebook marketer, an email marketer, web designer, et cetera. Went back to brands, made everything a la carte, month to month, super simple to get access to some of these great people I knew. And fast forward, in 6.5 years, that's grown to about 165 people, offices in LA, New York, and Boston. I guess currently, with everyone being remote, we have offices all over the country right now. But it's been a really fun ride. We've successfully grown over 2,000 brands in the past 6.5 years.
Awesome, very good. All right, so let's go back to not the beginning, not the birth, but you graduated high school, you went to college.
Yep.
Where did you go? What did you study?
I went to Arizona. I only know what I studied because it says it on my diploma. Had a lot of fun. I went to business school, undergrad at Arizona, and all the reputation of U of A is very accurate. And it was a good time. I needed the social skills. Academically, I was always fine. Went to a small hippie school growing up in a place called Ojai near Santa Barbara, California, and honestly never struggled academically. So when I went to pick a college, it was like, I want a good school, but I'd much rather have a social setting. because my graduating class from high school was 11. So my freshman class at Arizona was 8,000. So it was a good awakening, and that's what I wanted. So that's what I went for, and very happy I went there, and then got out, graduated 2008, started in real estate, commercial real estate, and 1 week later, Lehman Brothers had the largest bankruptcy in history. So that literally 1 week to the day. So literally graduated in the last time the market collapsed like it is, and didn't know any different. So was in real estate, made $350 that year as a commercial real estate agent, and there's no zeros missing from there. It was $350, and started trying to figure out what I'd do instead because it wasn't going to work. Ended up starting about 6 months into real estate. Early 2009, started working on a music company for one-on-one business coaching for musicians, and launched it 6 months after that in August of 2009. And had a friend's dad actually help me raise $1 million for it, and started building it from there. And then that set me off with digital, and here we are now.
So when you were in college, did you think about being an entrepreneur, or were you kind of just going to business school? Like, was that something that you decided in college?
No, I decided that when I was about 6 years old. Just to be real, my dad's an entrepreneur. He was in the waste business and also a lot of real estate development. It started from scratch, built a scrap metal company and construction waste pickup, and then turned into waste facilities and waste management. And I just grew up thinking that's what you do. Like, if you're going to get a job, it's to learn something, to go do your own thing. So I took that for granted in a lot of ways. And so when I was 6, I would try to sell my parents' stuff door to door and take things I thought they didn't need and go walk around the neighborhood selling my parents' things. Got yelled at for that, so stopped doing it. When I was 8, I got a Beanie Baby craze just for financial reasons, and bought and sold Beanie Babies, and ended up as an 8-year-old making a few $1,000s. Took that, saved for a car, bought a guitar, realized that there's some cool stuff you can do with money. But up until I was about 14, I wanted to be a musician, wanted to be a guitarist. And then around 13, 14, all my friends that picked up guitar that I had been playing since I was 4 years old, my friends that started playing in like a year later were better than me. And I was like, okay, so I'm not that naturally talented. Maybe I should move on to something else. So then it was music business, and then it was just business, and like, let's figure something out. And by the way, in college, I made fun of marketing majors. Like, I was like, what the hell is marketing? What does that even mean? But through building my own businesses, I realized like operations never came hard for me. Like, figuring out, like, I had a t-shirt subscription site, I had an activewear brand, figuring out how to manufacture that stuff and create a good product. Like, I could find people to help. I could find ways to solve those problems. Marketing and sales was always the more proactive side of the business, that there was no clear answer to a solution problem kind of situation. It was all trying to just figure out the next thing. So it was harder, but I also gravitated towards it. And so after building those companies, that's really where I found my skill sets to lie.
So you came out of college, you went into real estate at the worst time you could possibly go in.
Yeah.
You made a ton of money. And your annual was $350. We love that. We've all been there. We've had less zeros than more zeros. And then when you started your music business, let's talk about that. Like, you started that. Why did you? Now I understand why you were an entrepreneur, because you had access. You were around entrepreneurs, your father, other entrepreneurs. You realized that that's a way of life, right?
Yep.
So you started the music business because you had a passion for music. Why did you get into that? And what was the business?
So I was in a band. I still played guitar, even though I wasn't that good. I had no problem performing and making people listen to it. So I played music all through high school and middle school, and my drummer in my band pursued it post that and was still pursuing it when I got out of college. And his dad called me and said, hey, you're an impressive young guy. I think you've got some ambition. I want to figure out how to help help musicians harness that entrepreneurial spirit and actually make money as these, middle-class musicians. Like, not just talking about the big famous ones, but how does someone make a living? Like, can there be a middle class of musicians as opposed to struggling artist or Lady Gaga at the time? And so I was totally interested, because I still had it as a hobby. Working in the music industry sounded amazing, and I liked the mission. And then that was all he had. He had no idea of like how we solved that. So I went and spent again, I didn't have that much else to do. I wasn't selling any real estate. So I spent 2 months building a business plan that I thought fulfilled that mission. He liked it. Turns out I didn't know this about my friend's dad until this point. He was on the board of Men's Warehouse, had another company with Deepak Chopra, had co-founded Pay-Per-View, like this crazy history of business, and knew everybody because he had a company with Deepak Chopra. So Deepak calls someone, they answer. And so basically he was able to not only raise us $1 million, but also open every door in the world for us in the music industry. So Tom Silverman joined our board from Tommy Boy Records. It was like the godfather of hip hop. He was like the big hip hop, like Queen Latifah, Too Short, Naughty by Nature, Wu-Tang, like really cool guy. And then we had like David Page from Toto and like all these fun music guys basically advising us on how to help musicians. And the business model became one-on-one business coaching for musicians. So basically helping them, guiding them on how to actually take their music talent and then make money with it, how to sell out a venue, how to market themselves, how to build their email list, all the tactical things, frankly, we do now for businesses, we were doing for musicians.
That's awesome. Oh, just side note, I actually interned for Tommy Boy Records.
Did you really?
When I came out of college, yeah. I worked there for about a year in the accounting department when Time Warner bought them. Yep. So they were actually, the merger was happening. I was there to see it. It was fantastic. And I met Tom Silverman many times. But all right, so you started that company. So what happened? So now you got $1 million. You got to start hiring people, or
we built the company for 2 years. I got it to profitability. Honestly, on hacking Craigslist, we basically just went into Craigslist and saw that's where musicians looked, was in the gigs section of Craigslist. So we just built a bunch of algorithms to just advertise there constantly. Like, want to book more gigs, want to make more money as a musician, come to us. We charge $50 a month for coaching, and we ended up with I can't remember the number. It was thousands of musicians on the platform, and 11,000, 15,000, I think. And we, again, profitable, but it was a hamster wheel. And it was a big lesson in terms of like, we'd get, hundreds of new artists in every month, and hundreds would quit because honestly, the vast majority of independent artists are just lazy. There's an amazing minority of artists that are true artists, that are amazing, that are working hard. But a lot of people pursue this at the time. I don't know how it is right now in the industry, but they pursue this idea of being a struggling artist because they want an excuse not to do anything, not because they actually want to work. So they pay us for $50 for a month, be like, I'm not famous yet, and quit. So we had a big contingency of that we'd try to weed out, but it was hard. And I mean, our customer didn't have any money inherently. So it was a tough business. But it was profitable again, so we weren't going to shut it down. So we actually brought someone, I wanted to leave. We brought someone on to take over and run it, because I was at that point 2 years in, 24 years old, not ready to have my passion project helping musicians altruistically. I wanted to build a business. So he took over. I ended up building a t-shirt subscription company that we sold a year and a half after that. And then I joined an incubator called Science. That's they had just launched Dollar Shave Club. That's what they're famous for. And ended up advising and consulting for a lot of their brands, ended up helping them pivot a vitamin company to an activewear brand, built that for a year. It was a rocket ship, sold it, and then here we are, Hawke Media.
Okay, so let's talk about, so it looks like, are you more of like a started entrepreneur, or are you more of like started and run it? There's a lot of entrepreneurs that don't want to be in the day-to-day, like me, myself. I'm more of a start it, get it going, and then bring somebody else in to kind of run it.
Yeah, I just want it to be different. So like, I don't like the idea of just starting and kicking it out, because then I'm just doing the same thing over and over again. For me, I'm driven more by I like the sandbox. I like trying new things, and we'll get into it, I'm sure, but a lot of what's going on with this disease, like the entrepreneurial side of me, is actually kind of enjoying this because it's a new challenge. It's a new thing. I have no idea what the fuck's going to work. So I'm just going to try a bunch of stuff and see what happens. Like that's an important part of my role. And I have a really good business partner that lets that be my role currently. So with these other businesses, the reason they sold was more with the opportunity came up. It wasn't like I ever built a company with the intent of selling it right away. No. But with this, it's been almost the opposite, where someone's got to really pay up for us to sell this company. I have no urgency to sell Hawke Media because it fulfills that need for me. I love working. I get to do new things all the time with this company, because if I'm not working on new things, it means I've gotten stuck in a problem or a part of the business that I shouldn't be. And every time that happens, I hire someone, because if I'm spending my time on it, there better be someone I can hire to do it, or I shouldn't be spending my time doing that anyways.
And how do you discover that? So, a lot of times entrepreneurs, we were spinning our wheels trying to we're like, no, we'll figure it out, but we're really not qualified in that sector. So how do you discover that?
I mean, there's a lot of different ways. If it's something I don't know about, I try to find someone that does and meet with them and learn about it. Okay. Once I figure it out, I try to find someone that's done it for, it's the whole, if you want to win a Super Bowl, build a team that's already been there. It's, for me, a good example, we've acquired 4 other agencies now. We've seen that is a great part of our business, bringing in amazing people, amazing talent, great clients. That's been a good way to grow and get great people. And so now I have a full-time M&A guy that has an amazing track record that I can tell you already is one of the brightest people on our team. That's been a huge value add. He's been with us 6 months, and I can confirm he's a huge value add. And that came through. I did a few. It worked. Let's go build a process around that. And that's a lot of our business. I was the salesperson for a while, built a sales process, and it took, frankly, like a team of 10 people before they were actually out doing what I could do by myself. But we ended up doing it and built, like, it's just a slow process of trying things, pulling back, taking a risk, et cetera.
And when you're finding this and you're hiring these people, what's your methodology on like hiring people?
Yeah, it's really hiring people. I like scaring people out of the role. I try to make sure that they're ready to come in and work, and like their cultural alignment's the biggest thing. And I know that's kind of like a touchy-feely, redundant statement, but like we have very specific core values and a mission statement, and we want to make sure that everybody really, that not only that they're okay with it, that like motivates them. Because when you have a time like now where people are getting hit left and right emotionally, if they're not aligned with the company and its values and its mission, it's going to suck. And it's going to suck at any point. So like really finding people that are bought into why we exist is super important. And then, again, it goes back to like, have they done the things we need them to do? Because like these days, I don't want to hire someone and have them learn on my dime. I want to hire someone that can, like, the first 6 months is them getting us caught up, and then they can learn on my dime. And that's especially with men. Remember, I'm not hiring the entry level side of our business. I'm hiring executives. With executives, like, they better spend 6 or 12 months going, you guys are so broken. We got to fix all this. That's what I want to hear. Because like, if not, the hell did I need them for? I already did everything they're going to do. So that's what I see. That's what we end up hiring, are people that like reorganize, like our head of HR or head of finance. Like, they reorganize a lot of what we're doing. And 6 months, year in, you're going, wow, this is so much better now. Great. That's what I'm looking for. And so in the interview process, it's identifying, have they already done what we're trying to do?
So like in the beginning part, as you're starting out as a startup, you're just hiring people that you can kind of mold into what you need done, right? Because you can't afford necessarily in the beginning to hire like high level people. But then when you get to a certain point, now you're bringing in high level people because you need to take it to the next level, and you don't need people that you're going to mold. You need people that are going to tell you, like you said, hey, this is broken. We need to fix this, right?
Yeah. And I feel like should I answer the question that just popped up for?
Oh, did I answer? Is there a question?
Yeah, I can answer that. Core value or mission statement is accessibility to great marketing for everyone. The reason that's important is great marketing. You got to be great. This is not about being mediocre or decent or whatever. It's like, you got to be great. Accessibility, you got to be okay with the fact that we're going to take companies that aren't the sexiest companies in the world. We're about being accessible. We want everyone. We want to make sure that we are making it accessible to get great marketing. So you might work on the Nike account. You might work on the Red Bull account. You might work on the fake urine account, which is actually a client of ours, makes a synthetic urine. Like, you have to be okay with the fact that like your job is to help companies that need help, not, be able to brag about the fact that you work with Nike. And so again, we work with those brands too, but it's it goes, and then the core values that support that. Number one is IQ plus EQ plus AQ equals a Hawke. So AQ meaning adaptability quotient. So you need to be adaptable, have high EQ and have high IQ. Unwavering pursuit of growth in everything you do. The idea there is like, make sure that you're always pursuing growth, whether it's growing the company, growing yourself, growing our clients. Like, it's really, we want it to be unwavering. Make a massive impact. Super important. Have fun. We actually want people to enjoy it. Like we talk about, we're not curing cancer. Maybe we'll market the cure for cancer someday, but we're not doing it. It's like, you got to have fun. That's how this goes. Next is build community. We're all about internally, externally, really building the community around us. We think that that's really important, what we do. Next one is communicate. Our business is 80% contingent on our communication skills, not our ability to market. It's kind of crazy that way. So communication's really key. And then the last one is accessibility and accountability. So being accessible, being accountable, making sure that people can find you and account on you. Like, that's really important. So those are.
How do you your employees, how do you hold them accountable for their work? Like, how does your workflow work?
So I don't need to hold my employees accountable for their work, because if they're doing a bad job, we see it in their clients. Like the beautiful thing about my business from the get-go is like, I don't really need to be a micromanager, because the proof's in the pudding. If they're retaining clients and their clients are happy, and now we do things like we do client thermometers where we see how their client, like how happy people are, et cetera. If we're seeing good feedback, I don't got to do anything. They're obviously doing what they need to do. If we get a lot of churn from them, like they're losing clients or we're getting complaints, forces us to look at it. They don't want that, so they kind of self-manage that way.
Oh, perfect. Awesome.
Yeah.
So let's talk about stress in growing the business. I know you enjoy it. So for you, it's not work, right? It's you're enjoying what you do.
I don't wake up every morning just like, fuck yeah, let's go. Like everyone goes through their shit, and like there's ups and downs for sure.
So how do you deal with that, right? Like in entrepreneur life, in a single day, you can have an up and you can have a down.
Yep.
How do you deal with it, like mentally?
I think at some point you just come to terms with it. Like I will say, I think the day we sent everyone home with coronavirus, or not with coronavirus, but because of it, which was 4 Fridays ago, whatever, like March 13th, I think it was. Yeah, it was Friday the 13th. Funny, I just put 2 and 2 together. The day we did that weekend was like one of the most stressful weekends of my life, mainly because of anticipation. I had no idea if we were coming in Monday and like half our clients were firing us and I was gonna have to like make some drastic changes. I started planning for the worst, had no idea what this variable was gonna mean for my business. And sometimes you do just have to stress out. Like, got that feedback from my wife, frankly. I was like, I just need to get over it and figure it out. And sometimes you just got to sit with the fact that shit sucks and you're gonna have to figure it out and you're gonna stress out and be emotional. But generally, it's about coming to terms with the fact that like being a business owner, it's always that way. Like whether it's the virus that's going on right now, or an economic shift, or a trade war with China and you're manufacturing there, or whatever the hell the next thing is, because it's always something. Like my business partner and I talk about it all the time. There is always something fighting your business, and you've got to just come to terms with that's the job. You don't have to take the job. Everyone's an entrepreneur optionally. You can there's jobs out there where, even now there's 4% unemployment. Like there are plenty of people hiring right now. It's not that bad. And so like, if you don't want to do it, you can bow out, but know that is the cost. The cost of entrepreneurship is the fact that you're always going to be dealing with the biggest problems in your business. As the business gets bigger, the problems get bigger. Literally Tim Cook was having to deal with geopolitical problems to keep Apple afloat. Like the shit gets real. But the trade-off is worth it for the people that like it. And I would say there's a minority of people that actually enjoy it. Like, I think that there's a part of it that you can kind of in your head turn it into a challenge, not a problem. But it's just, like a game. Like, okay, here's the next challenge. How are we going to make my business survive a pandemic? Let's figure it out. And
this attitude, was this something that you learned from your father, or something that you developed over time?
Yeah, so I actually remember the point where this hit, because this is my 5th business, but this is where I really learned this. And my 1 month into business, I had like 5 employees, and one of them that was managing half my accounts emailed me on a Monday morning early, like 3 a.m. and said, "Hey, Erik, long story short, I fell in love on Saturday, asked her where she wanted to go. She said Hawaii. We're here now. I'll be working remotely." Like, we had never worked remote. I had no idea what was going on. Got in, called him over and over again. He's in Hawaii, so it's 3 hours earlier. Can't get a hold of him. Around noon Monday, he calls me back and he goes, "Hey, what's up, man?" I'm like, and I knew he was a little emotional, so I couldn't like go off on him. I'm like, "Dude, what are you talking about?" He's like, "Yeah, no, it's great. Everything's great. Don't worry. I got everything handled." I'm like, "Just make sure." We had 8 clients total. He had 4 of them. I'm like, "Make sure you handle your stuff. Like, get everything done." He's like, "No, of course. I'm on top of it. Don't worry about it. I'll be back on Thursday. Everything's fine." Okay. All I can do. So I took his word for it. And then Tuesday came around and all 4 of his clients called me freaking out because he hadn't done anything he had promised. And they were all like, "What the hell am I paying you for? I'm getting all these calls." Again, this is half my business at the time. So I call him, can't get a hold of him. Finally, he picks up and I'm like, "What the fuck are you doing? What's going on?" And he goes, "Hey, I'm going to stop you right there right now. This is the happiest day of my life. I'm getting married today. And I just need you to respect that. I'll talk to you later," and hangs up. So obviously, a lot going on. My business, the guy that became my business partner at the time was my strategy guy who ran the music company. After I started Hawke, I called him, said, "Come join me with this. That hasn't grown like we thought it wouldn't. Come join me and help me build this, be my head of strategy." He came on, he literally goes, "Well, I guess I'm gonna learn how to do email marketing," and literally spent all night reading books and going on tutorials, and took over for the guy that had flaked out. Hence why he's one of the main reasons he's my business partner, rolled up his sleeves. And I leave the office at the end of the day, call my dad, just like, hey, I'm starting to figure out how to build this business. I tell him this whole story. I rushed through it on this one, but it took like 3-4 minutes to tell him. And he, like, after I tell this whole elaborate story, he goes, oh yeah, that shit happens all the time. Anyways, I got to run. Talk to you later. Quick. I'm just
not what you were expecting, right?
I still, like, remember like the time of day, like it was sunny out. Like I remember that moment. I was just like, fuck, he's right. Like that does just happen, and that it all happens. You're going to, if you're running a business long enough, you're going to get sued. You're going to have an employee do something shitty. Like this is part of it. It's always going to happen. Just be ready for it. And if you have a good business, you'll be fine.
But see, that's the thing, right? If I'm a new entrepreneur going into a business, how do I know that? Like, how do I know that it's okay? Not okay, but these things will happen. You have no control, right? Especially if you're like a controlling person, right? You're like, I'm going to plan everything and it's all going to be great. But that's not really what happens, right?
No, it's not about control. I mean, risk mitigation comes from control. So definitely mitigate your risk, do everything you can. But also you just got to be ready to be nimble. This is a great example. Like I'm watching it during this, and I hate to keep harping on this, but during this whole period right now, I'm watching like certain businesses are hyper affected. There are restaurants and hospitality and all that hyper affected. I'm watching companies having their best month ever in March, pulling back their marketing or doing things to self-sabotage because they're scared. Not because anything that actually happened, but because they're just fearful, and you can't operate that way. Like we threw a conference yesterday, a digital conference, had over 4,000 people attend this digital conference, had Damon John on and Anthony Scaramucci and all these guys, like tons of amazing entrepreneurs. And the one consistent thing across all of them is in a situation like this, and in a situation when there's a problem, you have to be on the offense, not defense. You have to run at it. You have to figure out a solution. You have to pivot. You have to change. You have to adjust. And by the way, that's all the time. So if you're a good entrepreneur, whether it's the coronavirus or, again, whatever shift, this is what you're built for. This is where you shine. And that's why this should be an opportunity for those people.
So let's talk about this, right? Let's talk about the virus, like, and you've been, giving us little nuggets here and there. What's your take on it? Obviously, it's trying times. We all know. We hope everyone's safe. It's never, at least in 100 years, this hasn't happened to anybody. It's happening now during our lifetime. What's going on? Yeah.
So, not an economist, but I'm reading a ton because because of our clients, because of my employees, I have to be hyper informed with this stuff. Listen, there's a big hit to certain industries, and I'm talking the economic side, by the way. But the people side is terrible. This is an absolute travesty, and like this is awful in that sense. And like that part's really bad. But the economic side, the business side, the entrepreneurial side of this, we've seen the majority of people. We're at, according to last week's report, what was it, 4.4% unemployment, which is, by the way, the biggest 1 week increase in history. I get it. But 4.4% unemployment is not devastating to the economy. And as that creeps up, it's still like, it's not good, but people still have jobs right now. People, especially the people with discretionary income, still mostly have jobs right now. So spending, I don't think, is going to be as devastated as people think it is. And by the way, our anecdotal evidence, we do mostly e-commerce. Across the board, we're up like 5% in terms of our clients' revenue. Is across the board up about 5%. So they've grown in the past month, not shrank. We as a business have maintained even. So we haven't dipped or climbed. So, and I say that because I know that some people are struggling, but I want to make it clear that it's not everyone that's struggling with this stuff. Everyone's affected by this. Everyone's going through something. We thought we'd be way up in March. We had a huge pipeline. So like that, it did shift things, but I think where this is going now, I mean, I watch the numbers every day. It looks like we're starting to have a decline in daily additional cases. It sounds like the peak is expected to be in the next week. And this is from reports I'm seeing all the time. Literally the news is on the background. That's why I keep pointing that way. And I tried, by the way, I'm watching like local news that's not as like scare driven because I'm usually a liberal guy. I can't watch CNN anymore. The shit's crazy. I just turn it off. That's probably a good mental health insight. Like, don't listen to stuff. I pay attention to this like once a day usually, but I read the stat reports of what's going on, and we're starting to see declines. So we're starting to see a light at the end of the tunnel. So for business, as soon as people start seeing that this has an end to it, they're going to open up their wallets again. They're going to know that like maybe we've already been hit by the worst. Now there's an economic after effect, but if you look at Goldman Sachs report, it thinks that Q2 is going to be painful and Q3 is going to recover. So can you get through a quarter of shitty business and like a little bit of struggle? hopefully you've built your business to withstand that. If you're new, it might be a little harder, but I also wouldn't be too reactive, because I'm watching a lot of companies self-fulfill their own prophecy. Companies are laying off people before they've had any declines in revenue. That's fucking absurd. And by the way, you have to live with your decisions that you make now for the rest of the lifetime of you and your business. You're going to be known as a company that laid off. Staples decided today, even though they've remained open and their revenues are okay because everyone's buying home office stuff, they decided today, because their private equity firm mandated it, not to pay rent at any of their tenants, any of their landlords. All those landlords are now going to go the moment there's a problem, they're kicking them out. The moment they want to sign a new lease, there's going to be a contingent. Like, that's a reputation that they start to get in that community. So it's the same thing with us. Like, my business partner actually instilled this in me. Like, we need to remember with every decision we make, whether it's our clients or people, regardless of how painful this gets, that we need to live with that decision after this ends. And this may end quickly. So it's super important to think about that with the kind of ways you navigate this. And also, don't assume it's over May 1, or as what Trump said, Easter. Is that this weekend? Or next weekend? Sorry, Jewish. Don't know which weekend Easter's on yet. But the point being, like, it's not going to be over, but it's going to start to come back. There's probably things are going to start opening up, and I don't think this is going to end up being a long-term pain. I think it's short-term, it's going to be pretty painful, but I think that this is going to recover pretty quickly. And again, people a lot smarter than me on the financial side are saying the same thing. Anthony Scaramucci was on our panel yesterday saying, who, by the way, regardless of his White House stuff and the opinion of him, has a really successful hedge fund. And he's talking about how much he's investing right now because he thinks we're going to start seeing recovery pretty quick. And by the time you see it, it's too late.
So how do you, I love this. This is great. But how do you find, so like I'm a startup entrepreneur. I'm looking for opportunities. Like, how do I find that? What am I, like, right now, there's so much negativity and there's such a huge scare. And a lot of companies are panicking, right? And I love your advice about, hey, take a step, have any of your clients cancel any contracts. Like, you're still making revenue. Like, let's look at that. Let's look at the numbers. But how do I identify an opportunity?
Yeah, great question. So real quick, I also do believe in cutting non-essentials. And by the way, to the business owners out there, and thank you, Lee, that's appreciated. The business owners out there, cut every non-essential. Like, I mean, all our people are out of the office, so I don't have to buy office snacks or pay for massages and kombucha anymore. So like, that was helpful. But like, seriously, like right now, like, hold back on the things that are superfluous and like not necessary, but don't pull back on anything that drives business or keeps business. So opportunity wise, this is a pretty strong view we've taken, I believe that people are all going to lose customers. There are going to be, everybody's got some relation to a company that is affected by this, or an individual. So if you're a consumer brand, you're going to have customers that would normally buy from you that were in the industries that are affected. If you're a company like ours, we're going to have clients. We have a gym client. We have a car wash client. They had to cut all marketing. That's going to happen. So you have to do two things really well. One, you have to take care of your existing clients, because again, this will end. So whether it's someone that needs to pause paying you, or it's someone that needs to have a little relief, whatever, you need to look at it, because there are absolutely bad actors like Staples that are taking advantage of the situation. But there are also people that truly just need some help right now. And if you can provide it, you need to do that. Then you have to do a ton on the marketing and sales side, which is what we're doing, to find replacements for the business that you're going to lose, whether it's through deferral of payment, or just, hey, we can't do anything for a couple months, or we're bankrupt, we're out, which may happen. And it's going to happen. There's going to be bankruptcies out of this. And so understanding that on an individual, whether, again, if you're B2B, B2C, how to navigate that and how to find that new customer, because your customer profile also probably changed. If you're, for us, for us, it's pretty similar, but for like a lot of marketing agencies, I was on a panel with one earlier today, and they were talking about most of their business was in travel and hospitality. So overnight, they've got to figure out a whole new customer and how to get to them. That's a lot of businesses right now. And so, that's where we're fortunate, is our business is marketing and finding new customers. So to us, it's like the mindset shifted, where it's like, all the data we've had on customer acquisition costs, on LTV, all that just went out the window. We don't know what your customer is anymore. So we have to start from scratch again. But that's what we do. We do it all the time. So it wasn't an issue. So for our business, for Hawke, that's where our conference came from. Like I took my whole marketing team, and they rolled up their sleeves for 3 weeks and threw a conference for 4,200 people that we have no experience throwing a digital conference. We've never done anything like this before, but We had a lot of smart people in the room that just worked their ass off to make it happen. And that has generated a ton of awareness in business for us. So it's every business just needs to be thinking, what does my customer need right now and how can I provide it? And for us, we knew our customer needed encouragement and information. And encouragement meant a bunch of smart, successful optimists talking about what could be done here. And information, we need to make sure that they're informed. And it went off without a hitch. And so that was I used that. It happened yesterday, but it was an important example of that's how we pivoted. We do a ton of business going to trade shows, me speaking at conferences, et cetera. I was supposed to speak at this in person, but we do a ton of that, and that went out the window for the next foreseeable future. I mean, conferences that have rescheduled to October are now just canceling completely. So
let's talk about that. I mean, you mentioned travel, you mentioned tourism, events. How is the psychological impact of this going to affect those businesses?
Yeah, I think we're going to be fortunate that most people are pretty short-memoried. I don't think it takes long for people to I don't think we're going to go back to normal. I don't think that it's going to be like 9/11, in my opinion, from an example where we're going to have, fever scanners in our airports now, which, by the way, a lot of other countries already do. I went to Tanzania last summer, and they scan your forehead as you come in. So that's not new. It's just we weren't doing it. So I think there are going to be a lot of changes. Disneyland's talking about doing that as well. People are going to be stopping. If you have a fever, you're not getting on a plane anymore, which I think needed to happen a long time ago anyways. But I think that behaviors will come back somewhat slowly, but not that bad. I don't think when's Coachella rescheduled for? I can't remember, September, October.
Yeah, it's October.
Yeah. I don't know that that's going to be the best idea. I'm curious. The thing is, I don't know if people can get out of it. They've already sold most of the tickets, so it might be fine, but I'm curious to see how that goes. I think it's going to take till next year for people to feel comfortable to really go to big gatherings like that. And when they go this year, I think you're going to see everyone wearing masks. I think you're going to see people being careful. And I don't know that that'll go away that fast. I think masks, we actually got these sent to us, which are fun little promo masks. But I think that's something you see in Asia that's been around for years because of the other epidemics that they've had. So I think we're going to see a behavioral switch in terms of just washing your hands. Maybe people stop shaking hands for a little while, things like that. But I think restaurants will be a little less crowded, maybe for the beginning. But I also think that just as many people that are apprehensive of this, there's as many people that are just jonesing to be back with people and be back out. And I talk to our team, I talk to our clients, a lot of people just want to be able to go out again, even if they have to be somewhat careful. And so I don't know that there is on travel. I think it comes back, next year. I don't know that this year ends so devastating. I think, listen, missing a few months of travel completely is pretty rough for the airlines. They don't run on big margins, but I think people slowly start to come back as soon as things open up.
Yeah, I agree. And I think in travel, hospitality, they're going to have to maybe refit their restaurants and venues to accommodate more of a safe experience, right? I'm from New York, so you go into a restaurant, you're inches away from someone else, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's initially it's going to have to get adjusted, especially on planes. You're very tight, you're on top of people. I don't know. I think they're going to have to retrofit some of these venues. Well,
there's going to be technology that's going to start to come out that's going to be this is what, Delta sent me an email. I forgot what it said. I was half paying attention, but it was something along how they clean their plane after every flight. So they're starting to implement things that they're going to be expected from the consumer and that part will change. I think people will be much more germ conscious after this. And then there's the other part, because I was on a panel earlier that someone was well, what about it all coming back in, fall, after we get opened up again, the fall resurgence. The whole point of this is at that point, we should have the beds and the ventilators and the hopefully treatment and maybe a vaccine that we need. So the reason we needed to slow this down was because we weren't ready for it. By fall, we'll be ready for it. And we'll have, just like Homeland Security came out of 9/11, we're going to have a pandemic team in the government pretty soon. Fauci's going to have a job for life. This is going to be something that we're now going to have a prep for. And just like every other economic crisis, it's always something that we didn't prep for. And so who knows what'll be next thing, but it's not going to be another pandemic.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Awesome. Let's, I want to move this into a Q&A. Before we do that, Erik, is there anything that any resources, any thoughts, any books, anything that you want to share with the audience that you would give to friends or entrepreneurs getting started or in business?
I mean, we believe like in free information, like again, accessibility. So we do a blog post a day. Like we're putting out as much information as we can. We're actually going to be doing a weekly data dump right now, starting next week, of like all the things we're seeing change because of what's going on. Also, sincerely, the conference we did yesterday, I couldn't be more stoked on. We recorded all the content, so we'll be releasing that. These are all people talking about how to adapt with what's going on, and et cetera. If you're just looking for basic getting started, I don't honestly have a good answer to that. I'd be careful reading too much. I would be careful. Like you got to kind of like learn how to run your business, and like it's good to learn from other people. But I do see there's a propensity for people to get stuck and just start looking for outside advice versus learning how to work through it themselves. And it just depends on who you are. But I've read some books that have taught me a lot. Like Hard Thing About Hard Things is a great one. Yeah, it's a great book. One that most people don't know is called Appetite for Self-Destruction by a guy named Steve Knopper. It's about the music industry's propensity to self-destruct over and over again and like resist the CD, resist digital, and like people just failing because they resisted change. That stuck with me just because you can take that to any industry. Like you got to be nimble and willing to change and adapt to what's changing in the world. So, but yeah, I agree with Lee. Just get going. Like the best advice I always get is just swing the bat, go for it. There you go, ready to go.
Yeah, no, I agree with that though. I mean, I have a bunch of books here and everything, but you will learn 1,000 times more, like just trying to prove your hypothesis and just talking with potential customers, because you might have an idea that is a problem for you, but when you start talking to people, you don't know if anyone else even has that problem. And then you might think it's one thing, but as you talk to people, oh, it's actually more of this. So maybe I should focus on doing that. But I think that's fantastic advice.
And I mean, I read the book, like Predictable Revenue is a good sales book, but the problem is everyone runs that playbook. So if I had read that before I had built my sales organization, I would have run the same playbook everyone else did. And by the way, we're the fastest growing in our industry. So apparently I shouldn't have read that book. Like we did it without that. So it's like, and then I pulled a couple things from it. They're like, okay, this is kind of interesting. I could tweak that a little bit. But yeah, I'm more like just logical deduction and saying like, here's the problem, let's figure out how to solve it. But it's not, and maybe call a friend that's been through it to talk through it. But I don't like just taking books as gospel, because frankly, I have a lot of idiot friends that have published books too.
Well, in this day and age, everyone's self-publishing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, it's so easy to get a book on. So we're gonna jump into Q&A here. Yep. I am gonna try to bring on. We got a special guest here. He's trying to join. Lane Campbell.
Oh,
Lane, what's
up, buddy?
If you guys don't know Lane, he's actually a guy who introduced us to Erik, but he's I don't know, like 10-time founder. He's also an advisor, board member on many companies, investor. Lane, if you want, feel free to introduce yourself, and then you can get into some of your thoughts too on your advice for founders and stuff like right now as well.
Yeah, thanks guys for having me on, Erik. Good to see you.
You too, buddy.
It's fun working from home here. You're seeing the kitchen. I'm seeing some random furniture behind me. This is all new. Jimmy's got some good pictures behind him, though. He wins here. Yeah. I'm a bit of a square peg in a round world. Been an entrepreneur my whole career, over 16 years. Been building and selling small companies. But I think there was some great lessons that Erik brought up today. And he's had incredible successes, and really glad he was able to talk today and teach everyone, including me, about the things he's doing that are working. I say, I've been an advisor and mentor and coach and helped a lot of different companies, over 1,200. So I've seen at the very early stage, people are looking for very actionable things that they can do that are within their grasp. In an economic crisis like this, and I had a business through 2008, so I've seen this sort of. 2008, we knew what the problem was, and we knew the tools to get us out. This time, it's a human health crisis, and we don't really know when it's going to end. But we know there's economic uncertainty. So I think right now, one thing every startup founder should be aware of is you should have 3 bank accounts. one for your deposits, one for your debit card, regular day-to-day transactions, and one for your labor. You want to keep your finances very segmented in a crisis like this. You don't want a debit card linked to your labor account at all. And you don't want a debit card linked to your deposit account at all. You want to keep most of your money in your deposit account and transfer it as needed on a daily or hourly basis electronically into the other two accounts that you're going to have. Now, I'm assuming you don't have credit cards. I'm assuming, you don't have a savings account to keep dipping into, but you need to control your expenses. Erik said it really well. Cut everything unnecessary, right? If you're just getting started, everything is unnecessary except the very basics. Paying your labor expenses and making sure you have a general account to cover like your Google Apps subscription or anything that you need to do day to day. But most of your money should sit in your deposit account. You shouldn't be touching it. As clients pay you, that's where the money goes. And I'm assuming most people that are getting started, they may start like an e-commerce site, which Erik's company is phenomenal at. It's what they do. They grow e-commerce. If you're just getting started and you've got your first couple grand a month coming in, you got to protect it. And it shouldn't have a debit card linked to it, because what'll happen is a vendor will accidentally charge you too much money, or someone will steal the number and start hitting you with random fees.
Yeah,
and that can take a week or two to recover.
On that note, manage your vendors on MX. Use American Express. You can charge back that shit. If they end up doing that, you can get it right off. So yeah, I never put anything on. I've never used my debit card for my business, ever.
A lot of first-time founders don't have access to getting credit on their business, right? And so they'd be using a personal card.
It's personal guaranteed.
Yeah. Okay. So totally, if you have credit, if you have credit worthiness, you should use a credit card. A lot of founders, they're not going into this situation with good credit. They don't have the access to those types of financial products like an Amex card. This is a good alternative. Absolutely. If you have a credit card, you should be using that. There's no question. But if you don't, this is an alternative. A lot of people right now are going to become entrepreneurs, not out of I have a great idea type of founder. They're more of a necessity founder, a necessity entrepreneur. They have basic necessities they need to cover. They can't find a job. This is going to be their reality. And sometimes great companies are born out of that, but back against the wall, don't have the financial products like a credit card that you can turn to. This is an alternative for that. If you're a graphic artist, if you're a software developer, if you have access to credit, great. But if you don't, no problem. You can still navigate these tumultuous times. And the thing is, if you do everything out of one bank account and somebody does get your number and it's not a credit card, it can take a week or two to get your money back. So even if it is fraud. So that's why 3 separate accounts will help. There are companies like Aslo that'll give you one bank account for free, nothing per month. But there are other credit unions and things, small regional banks that'll give you free banking accounts as well. The big guys will charge you per month, Chase, and so forth, but they have branches, so it just depends on what you're looking for. And then after that, it's really just about going out there and trying to find people you can help. Everyone's hurting right now. Just get somebody paying you something. You'll always grow revenue with them if you add great service and value to them, and that's how you start.
Yeah.
Solve a problem.
Yep. I think that's great advice, Lane. The other thing too that I think people should be looking into if they're like maybe even a service-based company, like Erik was talking about earlier, there's a lot of companies that are doing really well. So find those companies because they are doing well, and they're probably even looking into spending more money on marketing and advertising right now too because it's really cheap. Yep. So, or on development, or who knows what else it is. But there's a lot of companies that are doing incredibly well right now. So research all of those industries that are doing extremely well and just go after them because they need help, right? They have orders they can't fulfill. They need to do marketing that they don't have the people to do. So there's opportunity everywhere, and that's the job of the entrepreneur, is to find the opportunity and to find that and fill that void and fill that gap. So anything else that you guys want to add? And again, for everyone, please drop some questions. We have a few coming in right now, but Please drop some questions. Now's the time before we wrap up here.
As I can see in the marketing and advertising strategy section, there's 2 votes, how to create more awareness for your product.
Yeah.
Erik, I think you've done a lot with affiliate programs before, right?
People are asking in the ask a question thing. It looks like we got a couple.
All right.
Yeah.
Either way, I can answer.
Yeah. So I think let's go with the first one real quick. So this is from Abe. You were clearly self-motivated and goal-oriented on the entrepreneur front. How did you develop yourself as a leader, and how did you draw your team together?
Yeah, I mean, you just gotta care. Like, if I actually like people. So people, when I was starting the business, like, oh, you're starting a people business. That's miserable. You have to deal with people. Like, don't get me wrong. We've had assholes coming in and out of Hawke, and it happens. But in general, I like people. So the idea of bringing people together and learning how to lead, and like, it's just that it came kind of naturally because I want to be that person for my people. And I'm self-aware enough, and frankly, not just self-aware enough, I have enough people around me to tell me when I'm being an idiot, but I continue to hone that and try to be better and better at being that leader for my people and get the feedback. Like, I really try to have a transparent organization. So when I say something stupid, I hear about it 70 times. And when I do something right, I usually get some good feedback too. And then you just start to understand, why did that work? Why, when I said this, did people get pissed off? But when I said this, people got super fired up, and you start to understand how to communicate with your people. And every culture is different.
Interesting. Do you have any specific things that people should avoid? Like,
yeah.
Do you have any, like, 1 or 2 things that got people really pissed off that no one should probably do? And then vice versa on, like, what made people pumped up?
In general, praise publicly, scold privately, or criticize privately, whatever they say. So, like, I've just noticed, like, every time, if I'm talking to the whole team, it's got to be positive. If I need to say something negative, I've got to grab the individual. And if it's a bunch of people, I got to grab them each individually. And it sucks from my perspective, but, like, that I have to remind myself of that all the time, because I want to get up in front of, like, my sales team and be like, all you fuckers need to, and that doesn't do anything. You got to get up and praise the people, like, what is it? There's a line about it, but basically, people drive. If you praise the people that are doing well, the people that aren't want to strive for that. If you shit on the we had a Navy SEAL speak yesterday that ran all the sniper training for the SEALs, and they pivoted to this type of management. They used to be like, "You're not worth it." Da 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 da. They had like a 30% completion rate from sniper training, went to 70% when they changed to being like positive reinforcement. And he talks about it pretty simply. If you have a little kid and he's going up to play t-ball, or going up to play baseball, Little League, and you say, hey, don't strike out, guess what's probably going to happen? But if you say, hey, swing for the fences, guess what might happen? Yeah. It's about that positive reinforcement with people too.
Sure. I love that. We have another one here that's right up your alley too. It looks like Alex has a digital marketing agency, recently lost clients. How should he be pursuing new clients? Do you have any tips for him on what he should be doing right now?
I mean, we do 100 different things, but I'd say the biggest support for us are our partners. We've built really, really good relationships with a lot of people out there that we look out for, that look out for us, that help us continue to get business in, software partners, people that we've taken care of as well. So, as I said, one of our core values is build community. Like, having a community of people around you to support each other. If you're flying lone wolf, it can be difficult. So that's one. It's obviously, I don't want to say, like, if you haven't done that yet, it's a little hard to just get started with that, but get involved in communities. Like, the more social you can be right now, the more, and I don't mean physically, I just mean online, whatever, like, that really helps. Being a part of organizations. I met Lane through Young Entrepreneur Council, which was super valuable and still is super valuable to me. And Lane was like the godfather in there. He helped everybody.
Yes, I'm actually part of it as well. That's how I met Lane too.
There you go.
That's awesome. Yeah, guys, keep the questions flowing. So we did a poll too. It seems like everyone's really interested in marketing and advertising strategies. Sure. Do you have any tips for people right now that are? And I mean, I'm actually interested in this as well, just for us, because we're actually looking into spending more money on marketing and advertising right now, with our events, but then also just with like the app coming out and everything. What are for people who are looking into like doing either paid media paid marketing advertising, or even just organic stuff? Do you have any tips, strategies that you see are working really well right now?
Yeah, don't be deaf to what's going on right now. I had my team 3 weeks ago pivot all creative. That wasn't like maybe some worked, like very little worked, but it's like if it's a picture of a bunch of people hanging out on the beach, get fucking rid of it. Like change everything you're doing, your messaging, your creative across the board to acknowledge what's going on. That doesn't mean, COVID-19, 19% off sale, because I have seen that.
Yeah.
That's fucking crazy. But I mean, like, understand that people are sitting in their houses. Understand that, like, you don't have to get overly emotional about it or try to benefit from the situation, but don't be tone deaf. I saw a Range Rover ad that I thought was just on point. It was a picture of a Range Rover in the middle of like a giant mountain landscape by itself, and it said Range Rover social distancing since 1948. And it was just like a beautiful picture of the outdoors, and it was like that resonated. I had to respect that. Same thing with what Nike did. Just don't do it. Like, well done. And so again, you don't have to actually play off the actual situation, but at least acknowledging it's super important. We saw two big agencies in our space that are like our size, pretty decent competitors, published that their sales across the board in fashion were down 30% the first 2 weeks of like the true shutdown. We saw an increase of 1%. Not like it skyrocketed, but like fashion had done just fine, and most e-commerce had done just fine. And so I was like, that's funny. The only difference between them and us, because they all have the best practices we do, I bet they didn't pivot as fast with what's going on creative. They're probably still using the same ad sets and the same targeting methodology they were using before this started. And a lot of your customers have changed since this started. So you have to pivot, you have to adjust. I can go into general marketing tips, but I would say for now, making sure that what worked before you understand needs to change is important. And then there's 3 categories you always have to think of. This is kind of general marketing: awareness, nurturing, trust. How are you driving new awareness to your brand? Because you have to find new customers. How are you nurturing that awareness to actually convert them from just awareness to a customer? So email marketing, SMS, chatbots, just ongoing follow-up is super important. That also helps increase your lifetime value. And then how you're building trust. If you're a new brand, third-party validation like press or influencer testimonials and reviews, etc., super critical. And then as you establish, it's really about consistency so that you become a reliable brand people can trust. That's really, in a nutshell, those 3 things are always like the checklist. Like, how are you building new awareness? How are you nurturing that? Because every purchase has a consideration period, meaning from when they first learn about you and to when they buy. And like, just to give stats here, if you have a $50 average order value, that's about 3 weeks on average. At $100, it's about 5 weeks. $200, about 6 weeks. So like, it takes time for someone to decide to buy your product. So if you think you're just going to run a Facebook ad and sell a product, you're going to be missing out on most of your customers. So really building a full funnel, not being short-sighted with marketing, understanding everything takes time to build a brand, and then just in this kind of a situation, committing to be on the offense, attacking at it. I do agree with what Lane said. Don't be spending frivolously, but also don't just be sitting with money in your savings account watching it dwindle because you decided to sit still and hang on for dear life. So.
Erik, do you think with a lot of the big brands pulling out in advertising and whatnot, or companies putting money aside, has advertising become a little bit cheaper?
Oh, it's up 30%. Cost per 1,000 impressions on Facebook and Google are up 30% in the past 2 weeks.
So you're saying cost went up?
No, cost
went down. It's cheaper to advertise.
Way cheaper. Yeah.
Wow.
Like our cost per lead for Hawke, we spend about $75,000 a month on advertising for Hawke Media. We have not pulled back on it, and our cost per lead cut in half in the past month.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
It's huge. Yeah, I think for the people who can afford it, like, now's the time.
Yeah, that's what exactly. If you're, again, I feel for the people that are shut down and have no alternative, but like I have a friend that owns 25 gyms across Canada, or 20 gyms across Canada. He's been doing it for 25 years, got shut down overnight. He went digital. He's doing digital fitness training and hasn't missed a beat. And now he has a whole new revenue stream because all these customers that couldn't come into his gyms for personal training are now signing up that always wished they could have been working with his company. So like, There's an opportunity here for almost everyone. Cheesecake Factory is only down 50% on revenue, which is crazy. Restaurants are closed across the country. Cheesecake Factory only lost half their revenue for a couple months.
Delivery. Yeah.
Yep.
Well, let me ask you also one more question. What about all the new technology? Like you're saying, all these companies that never wanted to go virtual, right? Or, for example, we've been doing in-person events for 2 years, now have gone virtual.
Mm-hmm.
We thought about it, we talked about it, but we never initiated because we didn't have to. We were put in a position where we had to, and we have done this. What do you think about the technology of working from home, or do you think the landscape of work is going to change over time?
Yeah, no, I think this accelerated something that was coming. We've been talking about, the future of work for a while, but like even us, like I'm the one, my partner wanted to go virtual. What was like, we could be, partially remote, et cetera. He really likes the, what's the company that owns WordPress, Automatic?
Yeah.
Their model, like having like hangout areas in different cities, but like you can work from wherever you want. He really liked that. I was like, you got to build culture. You got to be in person. I'm still on the fence about it being like a permanent thing, but I think a lot of companies are going to just never go back. I think office real estate is going to be a problem. Plus, I mean, for us, like our office is really expensive. We're in West LA with 27,000 square feet. Like that is a huge expense that if I can find a reason to not spend all that money, that's interesting. And so I think that is going to be, a lot of people will think that way. I think there's going to be a lot of shifts. Plus, this is a good example. Like, we would have never thrown a digital conference. We threw one yesterday, and now we're talking about doing one in October. You guys are doing this right now. You may go back to some in-person stuff, but you're also probably going to leverage this sometimes too.
For sure. Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, we're definitely going to, even when we get back to in-person events, we'll do some digital stuff. And yeah, I was, when you told me that you're doing that digital conference, I was like, this is awesome. Like whenever you told me about that. And we've been running the idea of doing like kind of a day-long kind of like entrepreneur summit type thing too, just to like differentiate ourselves a bit, because everyone's doing all these things, and we want to kind of make things different and bring people together in a different way. But yeah, I think we do a lot of events at co-working spaces. WeWork, Industrious Spaces. SoftBank pulled out of WeWork. They're going through a whole thing. Who knows what's going to happen with that? Who knows if we're going to even be able to do events with them anymore? And how the co-working industry is going to change after this, because they've definitely haven't gotten any new customers, and a lot of people have not been paying, or have left, or have gotten rid of their lease, and are probably just going to work out of coffee shops maybe until this is over. Who knows? So it will definitely be very interesting to see what happens in that capacity.
I agree. I think that will shift. I mean, also like anytime there's an economic downturn, all the bullshit companies get hit, and like WeWork's obviously they were hit before this, but you see companies like Away that I don't know how that company was valued at $1.3 billion.
I don't either.
And and it sounds like they had some problems internally. And I mean, from the beginning, they ripped off that idea from Radin, started Away. Like it's just that whole story of that company was a little weird. And you have a lot of these e-com brands, a lot of which I know that are struggling right now. It's because they were super ego-driven by the fact that they raised venture money versus building a sustainable business. And now every venture capital person cuts off, and you have every VC telling their companies to stop marketing, which is hilarious to me. Like, and we have a venture fund too. We are not saying that. And it's like, no. Like, and what's amazing is like, we have an investment in a company called The Sill. It's a direct-to-consumer houseplants. They're crushing it right now because everyone's stuck home and buying houseplants. Sure. And so like, but their competitors are all pulling back their ad spends because their VC told them to. It's a pretty ridiculous how people react to that idea.
It is funny. Yeah, I think one of the things that I noticed too with Silicon Valley, especially like startups and all of that, is people are more focused on raising money than making money, and they put that on a pedestal over actually building a fundamentally solid business. It's so weird. Yeah. So that's refreshing to hear your thoughts on that too. We have a question here from Lee as well. Are you guys taking advantage of the Google and Facebook ad credits for customers? Because I know Google's doing a bunch of ad credits, Facebook's doing a bunch of ad credits. Maybe if you can go into the details of that too, and how they're structuring those.
Yeah, so actually, I'll three parts of that. So Google and Facebook both giving credits to small businesses to run ad spends and get you kicked off. And yeah, 100%. I was on the phone with the head of partnerships at Facebook this morning, making sure that they were building trainings for our team to push it. Our teams are very on top of it. The good news is like we're one of the top 10 partners to Facebook and Google, other than the holding companies. So we get a lot of support from them. So they look to us to deploy things like that. So absolutely looking at those credits. I don't have clarity personally on how they're getting deployed, so I can't answer that. But I know that we're on it and we're hammering it. And then one thing that brings up also is the PPP. I don't know if anyone on here has a big business over 500 employees, but assuming most people here don't, get on that if you haven't already, because they've already deployed 20% of the money that they've allocated for the payroll. What is it? The payroll relief. I forgot what the 3P stand for. The CARE Act. And like
payroll protection plan.
Yeah, thank you. Payroll protection plan. It is insane what they did there, and they were preemptive. So there is an aspect of things that, frankly, like they're going to have to do more, but like they're putting money into the hands of people that, frankly, don't even need it yet, just to hope that helps them never need it. So they're trying to get ahead of it. Now, it's a little late for the companies who are, again, hyper affected, but for everyone else, you all have, if you're an SMB, you have access to that. You have under 500 employees. And if you're a service business like us, like I think it's, well, on the expense side, our payroll is probably 80% of our expenses. Like for them to cover 2.5 months of it is an insane thing for us to get access to. That makes this like, that makes me like, unless the entire world collapses, we're probably in a good spot.
Yeah. Yeah, we're actually doing, that's why we're doing these Thursday free live streams on all these COVID. We did our first one last week on just all the updates, the loans, the grants, opportunities. We're doing another one this Thursday. We have our accounting partner again, CPA, going through everything. He's been like researching and diving into all of this. So if anyone wants to learn more about that, we're gonna just do it every Thursday for free across everything for everybody. So we want to just make sure that people are getting the right resources and information that they need, because even a lot of people that like are in the like SBA don't even know what's in this stuff. I mean, I was talking with our Bank of America business manager about this stuff, because every bank has their different roles for this stuff. And if you have a credit card with another company like American Express or Brex or anything else, you actually can't even qualify for the PPP. And I was like, does Brex count? Because it's not really a bank necessarily. And he didn't even know, like he didn't know like what the right rules were.
This is a good piece of long-term advice. Thank God I got it a few years ago. You need a banking relationship as a business. You have to have, and this story came from a friend of mine named Cameron Harold, who actually also spoke yesterday. He bootstrapped a business to $100 million in revenue, $100 million. And 1 month, the year they did $100 million in revenue, he had to borrow, his partner borrowed $420,000 from his mother to make payroll, because they had no line of credit, they had overspent on CapEx, and they didn't monitor their cash flow properly. You should always have a line of credit, regardless of whether you need it or not. We've had $1 million line of credit for a long time that we've never used. And when this all started, we took all the cash out of it because, frankly, interest rates are nothing. So we're paying the fee on credit right now. But I have a massive cash influx in my business that I don't need, but makes me sit a lot prettier just in case something happens. Like, again, this could be harder. There could be a point here where all my clients decide not to pay me. And while I figure that out, I've now got some support. And and also, because I have that line of credit, I already had all my documents with the bank. So when this came out, it just was like flipping a switch, and now I'm registered for the PPP, and I got approved by Monday afternoon.
Yeah, nice. Yeah, that's really smart. Really smart. Lane, what are your thoughts on the PPP and everything? And guys, we're going to be wrapping up here, so if you have any final questions, now's the time to ask them too.
Yeah, so I've been talking with a friend out in Silicon Valley named Jonathan Angel, who owns a CPA firm. He's a CPA, and he's helping companies. He figured out how to get himself registered as an agent to help companies file the paperwork or revise the paperwork or provide the documentation, all for free to business owners. And he gets compensated by the government through the banks under the legislation. So if you want help, if you have applied, or you are in the process of applying, if you are revising, if they've asked for more information, don't be afraid to reach out to them. info@covidcash.co. It's COVID cash.co. And you will reach Jonathan Angel with that email address. It's all for free. He cannot legally charge you a fee, and you will be able to have an expert team with CPA oversight help you through that process. I think anybody who has a business who meets the requirements should be applying. It looks like they're going to expand it. Seems like they're going to add another $200 billion to the small business side of it, but it doesn't mean it's going to last. There's a reason they're doing that. There's not even enough in the initial capital they set aside. It's going so fast that look, everybody's struggling through this just about, and the government's aware. They're trying to help take advantage of it. It's taxpayer dollars that are being borrowed to do this, right? So you're going to be paying it back with interest. So take advantage of it. It's a loan that turns into a grant if you meet the requirements. Another thing I'll touch on, a lot of companies that are struggling out there may have the types of client lists that you need, and they may be open for a revenue share. So if you're a marketing agency, for example, and you're struggling, some of your clients had to let you go, maybe you know some of the things that they are looking for. Those companies may need revenue, may need other things, but you if you know what products and services they were selling, what clients they may have, you may be able to connect them. Let's say they were a restaurant or a cafe, and they have a loyalty program, and they know some of their customers. There's still consumer-facing products and services that would take advantage of that type of customer list. And so you could act as somebody who helps bridge those things together. Or for your case, if you're an agency owner and you're looking to grow revenues, go talk to some of the software development agencies in your area, the ones that don't do marketing and sales. Maybe have some great customers, and those customers are growing, and they're trying to figure out how to maybe lower their cost of acquiring customer or grow more sustainably. You could be helpful there. I published a formula a few years back on entrepreneur.com called the 95 and 5 formula, and it's a basically very simple approach where I found, if you're building a company, it's every sale you get is all about trust. Erik touched on it a while back. If you're building a business and you need to build trust to acquire a customer, how do you do that? If you go direct, it takes time, it takes money. If you leverage somebody's existing trust relationship, it's faster. You got to split the revenues. If you look at the biggest companies out there, oftentimes you'll see they don't even go direct. They figured out that the cost of acquiring a customer directly is actually too expensive. And so you don't buy Coke from Coca-Cola. And so if you start to look at the supply and distribution chains that exist for getting a product out there and getting adoption, you can bring your costs down. You can make it contingency based. You just have to find the right partnerships. And that article I linked to there in Entrepreneur is called Why Leading with Value is a Mistake. But I equate this a lot to headaches, and I'll wrap this with just a 20-second explanation to get you guys interested and read more and listen more. But I think of selling a lot like dealing with headaches, right? If I wake up in the morning and I have what we would call more of like a tension headache or regular headache, I just kind of ignore it and I go about my day. I don't know about you guys or whatnot, but if Jimmy saw me and he saw me kind of like a little grimace on my face, like that guy must have a headache, and he says, "Here's a blue pill," I might take that. Why? Well, it's not really the value of getting rid of it that's going to be interesting to me. 95% of the reason I'm going to take that pill is that I trust Jimmy. Only 5% is the value prop, right? And that's because it's just not that big of a deal. Most of the time when we sell in business, we're dealing with tension headaches, okay? You're not trying to change the world here. It's just a problem, and people are ignoring it until somebody they know, trust, and like approaches them with a value prop to get rid of it. So really, in sales, what we're doing is building trust when we outbound, okay? And that's outbound selling. Inbound selling, it's a lot like getting up in the morning with a migraine headache. Okay, if I get up with a migraine, I'm not going about my day. I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting into bed, shutting the lights, closing the blinds, changing my behaviors, right? And if I went on Yahoo Answers and I saw that I could swallow toothpaste and I could get rid of my migraine headache, I would do that. And 95% of the reason that I'm going to do that is because of the value prop, that it will get rid of my headache, right? Only 5% is that I actually trust it will do that. And so that's the inverse of inbound versus outbound selling. When somebody's coming to you, most of the time, they have a migraine headache. And so you need to change how you process and explain what you do based on if you're outbound selling or you're dealing with inbound opportunities. And I think that most of the time, the best way to establish that trust relationship with guys like Jimmy is to go through third-party intermediaries. Like most of the people that I've met, on this call, Jimmy and Erik, came through YEC. It's an organization of people. We trust each other because we all got into it, and that lowered the bar, and we began to talk more openly. You need to find partners to do that with.
Yeah, and you guys probably know it, but I'm in an organization called YPO that has been one of the most valuable parts of getting through what's going on right now. It's being surrounded by other entrepreneurs is very important.
Yeah, I think that's huge. I think Lane's point also, using your existing network, even if you lost clients or customers or whatever, see if there's other ways that you could help them, or if there's other things, even though, you might not be able to solve their problem right now, if you can introduce them to someone else who can solve it, and you can, set up an affiliate or commission, basis with them. There's a lot of people with problems right now. So if you're a solution guy or a girl, work that, get to know people and build that trust, because right now everyone is reaching out to people who they know, like, and trust for support right now. And if you're that person in that company, you're going to be able to profit a lot right now and get, and retain business and whatnot. I think that pretty much wraps it up. Jimmy, Erik, Lane, you guys want to add anything else before we wrap up here?
Hang in there. That's it.
Yeah.
Run at that.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you guys so much. Erik, is there any place that you want people to find you? Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Hawke Media? Where do you want people to find you and connect with you?
I'm putting it all in chat right now.
Okay. Beautiful. Yeah, Lane, if you want to put your LinkedIn on there as well, I know. Definitely. We're actually we're trying to get the guy that Lane was mentioning that can help with these loans and stuff. We're trying to get him on to one of our Thursday events to go through some of that stuff as well. But if you, come out to these events, guys, we're trying to really just help and connect entrepreneurs out here better, easier during these times. So thank you, Erik. You crushed it, man. That was awesome.
You're great. Thank you.
Yeah, looking
Thank
forward.
you all for hanging out.
Yeah, no, this was great. And thank you everyone who joined. Stay safe out there. Appreciate you guys in our network, and just continue pushing through it. We'll get through this, guys.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thanks everybody.
All right.
Talk to you soon.
Bye. Thank you.